Some encounters defy logic. They shatter our understanding of reality and leave us questioning everything we thought we knew about the world. Tonight, I'm bringing you 3 chilling stories involving children. Stories that have no rational explanation, no comforting answers. These are accounts that will make you wonder, what if the impossible isn't impossible at all? Before we begin, I want you to do something. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, because what you're about to hear, it demands your full attention. These aren't just stories, they're warnings from the edge of reality itself. Let's begin. In the autumn of 2019, a family in rural Vermont moved into what they thought was their dream home. The house was old, built in 1897, but it had character, charm, and, most importantly, it was affordable. Sarah and Michael Thompson, along with their 7-year-old daughter Emma, were excited to start their new life. The first few weeks were normal. They unpacked boxes, painted walls, and slowly turned the house into a home. But then Emma started talking about her new friend. At first, Sarah thought it was an imaginary playmate, completely normal for a child Emma's age, especially after moving to a new place where she hadn't made friends yet. "Mommy, Lily showed me where the old toys are hidden," Emma said one evening at dinner. "She said they used to be hers, but now I can play with them." Sarah smiled, playing along. "That's nice, sweetie. What does Lily look like?" Emma's response was oddly specific. "She has long brown hair with a blue ribbon. She wears a white dress with tiny flowers on it, and she's always cold. She says the house used to be warmer." Michael and Sarah exchanged glances, but didn't think much of it. Kids had vivid imaginations. Then came the discovery that changed everything. While cleaning out the attic, Michael found an old leather photo album wedged behind a loose floorboard. The album was filled with sepia-toned photographs from the late 1800s. As he flipped through the pages, one photograph made his blood run cold. It was a portrait of a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old. She had long brown hair tied with a blue ribbon, and she wore a white dress covered in tiny embroidered flowers. The resemblance to Emma's description was exact, perfect, impossible. Michael's hands trembled as he turned the photograph over. Written on the back in faded ink were the words, "Lillian Grace, aged 8, taken 3 weeks before the fever took her. May she rest in eternal peace, 1897. When Michael showed Sarah the photograph, they both felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October air. They decided not to tell Emma, at least not yet. But that night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay awake listening to the old house settle and creak, and then she heard it. Footsteps, small, light footsteps in the hallway. Then Emma's voice, bright and cheerful. "Lily, you came to play." Sarah rushed to Emma's room. Her daughter was sitting up in bed, smiling at the corner of the room. "Sweetie, who are you talking to?" "Lily's here, Mommy. Can't you see her?" Emma pointed to the empty corner. "She's right there." The temperature in the room had dropped noticeably. Sarah could see her breath in the air. "Emma, honey, come sleep in our room tonight, okay?" But Emma shook her head. "Lily says I can't leave. She says she's been alone too long. She says she finally has a friend who can see her." For weeks, the encounters continued. Emma would have conversations with empty air. Toys would move on their own. Cold spots appeared throughout the house. But the most disturbing incident happened one rainy afternoon in November. Sarah was doing laundry when she heard Emma scream. She ran upstairs to find her daughter standing in front of the hallway mirror, crying. "What's wrong, baby?" Emma pointed at the mirror with a shaking hand. Lily showed me." Sarah looked at the mirror, but saw only their reflections. "Showed you what?" "How she died," Emma whispered.
The fever made her so hot, but then she got so cold. She was in the room that's my room now. She was scared, Mommy, so scared, and no one could help her."
That night, Sarah and Michael made a decision. They researched the house's history and discovered that yes, a young girl named Lillian Grace had died of scarlet fever in 1897 in the bedroom that was now Emma's room. The family had been so devastated that they'd left the house shortly after, unable to bear the memories. But here's where the story takes a turn that defies all explanation. The Thompsons decided to hold a small ceremony. They bought flowers, lit candles, and Emma, coached by Sarah, spoke directly to the empty air. "Lily, we know you're here. We know you've been alone. But it's time for you to go somewhere peaceful, somewhere warm. Your family is waiting for you." That night, Emma woke up one final time. She walked to her parents' room, and when Sarah opened her eyes, she saw Emma silhouetted in the doorway. But behind Emma, just for a moment, Sarah swears she saw another silhouette, smaller, translucent, of a girl in a white dress. "Lily says thank you," Emma said softly. "She says she can see the warm light now. She says she's not cold anymore." The next morning, the house felt different, warmer, lighter. Emma never spoke of Lily again. But sometimes, on quiet autumn evenings, Sarah swears she can smell flowers, the same delicate scent of the embroidered flowers on Lillian Grace's dress in that old photograph. Some presences aren't malevolent. Sometimes they're just lost, and sometimes it takes the innocent heart of a child to guide them home. But our next story, this one, is different. This one will make you question whether some children are truly innocent or if they are vessels for something far more ancient and terrifying. In 2017, a child psychiatrist named Dr. Rebecca Chen encountered a case that would shake her understanding of memory, consciousness, and the very nature of human identity. A 4-year-old boy named Marcus was brought to her office by his terrified parents. Marcus had begun speaking about his other family. At first, his parents thought it was a phase. Kids blend fantasy and reality all the time. But Marcus's stories were different. They were detailed, consistent, and deeply, deeply disturbing. "I had a wife named Catherine," Marcus told Dr. Chen during their first session, his small voice oddly mature. "We lived in a red house with a big oak tree in the front yard. I worked at the factory, the steel factory on Morrison Street." Dr. Chen wrote notes, intrigued but not yet alarmed. "Marcus, when was this?" "Before," the boy said simply. "Before I was Marcus, when I was James Crowley." Children sometimes claim to remember past lives. Dr. Chen had read about it in her studies. But what happened next went far beyond anything she'd encountered in academic literature. Marcus began drawing pictures. One showed a red house with an oak tree. He drew it with the precision of someone who'd seen it 1,000 times. Another showed a woman with dark hair and a beauty mark on her left cheek. "That's Catherine," Marcus said. "I miss her." Then he drew something that made Dr. Chen's professional detachment crumble. He drew a car crash, a collision at an intersection. The sketch, crude but effective, showed a black sedan and a delivery truck. "That's how I died," Marcus said, matter-of-factly, as if discussing what he'd had for breakfast. "The truck ran the red light. It happened so fast. I remember the glass, and then I was floating. And then I was here, with these parents. But they're not my real family." Dr. Chen knew she had to investigate. If this was a fantasy, it was an elaborate one. If it was something else, she didn't want to consider the implications. She began researching. Morrison Street was a real location across the state. There had been a steel factory there, though it had closed in 1994. And then she found it. A newspaper article from 1989. a fatal car accident at the intersection of Morrison and 5th. The victim, James Arthur Crowley, aged 32. The article included a photograph. Dr. Chen's hands shook as she looked at the photograph. James Crowley had been survived by his wife, Catherine. The article mentioned their home address. On a hunch, Dr. Chen used Google Street View to look up the address. There it was, a red house with a large oak tree in the front yard. Every detail matched Marcus's descriptions. Dr. Chen made a decision that would haunt her for years. She contacted Catherine Crowley. The woman was now in her 60s, remarried, living in a different state. When Dr. Chen explained the situation, there was a long silence on the phone. I need to see him. If there's any chance. The meeting was arranged under controlled circumstances. Marcus's parents were skeptical but desperate for answers. Catherine Crowley flew in, and Dr. Chen facilitated the encounter in her office. When Marcus saw Catherine, his reaction was immediate and visceral. Tears streamed down his 4-year-old face. "Catherine, you cut your hair, and you look older." Catherine gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "James used to say that exact phrase whenever I changed my hair, those exact words." But Dr. Chen needed proof. She needed something irrefutable. She asked Catherine to test Marcus, to ask him things only James would know, private things, intimate details. Catherine's voice trembled. "Where did we go on our first date?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "The Italian restaurant on Baker Street. You ordered chicken parmesan, but you were too nervous to eat. You had a red dress with white buttons. I spilled wine on the tablecloth, and the waiter gave us a dirty look." Catherine went pale. "What did you buy me for our 2nd anniversary?" "A silver locket with our initials engraved inside, JC and CM. You cried when you opened it." The room fell silent except for Catherine's quiet sobs. "How is this possible?" she whispered. But here's where the story becomes truly unsettling. Marcus looked at Catherine with eyes that seemed far too old for his small face. "I don't know how long I can hold on. Marcus is getting stronger. I can feel him pushing me away. This body, it's his, not mine. Soon I'll be gone completely. I just needed to tell you, I never stopped loving you. Not even in death. Not even in this, whatever this is." 3 months later, Dr. Chen met with Marcus again. The boy seemed different, lighter, more age-appropriate. When asked about James Crowley, Marcus looked confused. "Who's that?" he asked innocently. Whatever consciousness, whatever fragment of James Crowley had briefly shared space with Marcus had faded. The boy had no memory of his detailed stories, his drawings, or his tearful reunion with a widow from another life. Dr. Chen published a paper on the case, carefully anonymized. It was met with skepticism from most colleagues, belief from others. But she knows what she witnessed. She has the recordings, the drawings, the documentation of facts a 4-year-old could not possibly have known. Some might call it reincarnation. Others might suggest unconscious access to some cosmic database of memories. But Dr. Chen has a different theory, one that keeps her up at night. What if consciousness doesn't end with death? What if it lingers, searches, and sometimes, just sometimes, finds a crack in reality to slip through? And what if that 4-year-old boy was briefly host to something that should have remained beyond the veil? The question isn't whether Marcus remembered too much. The question is, what else might be trying to remember through the innocent minds of children? Which brings us to our final story, the most disturbing of all. Because this one isn't about a ghost. This one isn't about memories. This one is about something that might still be out there, watching, waiting. In the winter of 2020, Just before the world shut down, a series of photographs appeared on an internet forum dedicated to the paranormal. The posts were made by a user named Winter Hiker 77, and they told a story that has since been investigated, debated, and feared by thousands. The user claimed to be an avid hiker who'd been exploring an abandoned logging road in the Pacific Northwest. It was late afternoon, the sun already beginning its descent, when he noticed something unusual. 3 children standing in a small clearing about 50 yards from the trail. At first he thought nothing of it. Maybe a family was camping nearby. But something felt off. The children weren't moving. They weren't playing. They were just standing there, facing his direction, watching him. Winter Hiker 77 raised his hand in greeting. The children didn't respond, so he called out, "Are you kids lost? Do you need help?" No answer. But then, in perfect unison, all 3 children smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a happy smile, a wide, stretching smile that seemed wrong somehow. Too big, too deliberate. The hiker felt a primal sense of danger. He took out his phone and snapped a photograph, just one, before his instinct screamed at him to leave. He turned and walked quickly back down the trail, resisting the urge to run. When he finally looked back, the clearing was empty. That night, in his hotel room, he examined the photograph. What he saw made him sick to his stomach. The 3 children were visible, standing in formation, but their faces, something was wrong with their faces. The smiles were indeed too wide, stretching beyond what seemed anatomically possible. But worse, their eyes were completely black. No whites, no iris, just darkness. Winter Hiker 77 posted the photograph online, asking if anyone could explain what he'd seen. The response was immediate and chilling. Dozens of users claimed to have had similar encounters. Different locations, Montana, British Columbia, Northern California, but always the same. 3 children, always smiling, always with those black eyes, always in remote locations. One user, Forest Ranger Mike, shared a report from 2015. A family had gone missing while camping in Olympic National Park. Their abandoned campsite was found 3 days later. The food was untouched, the tent was pristine, but scratched into the dirt beside the tent with 3 crude drawings, 3 stick figures with enormous smiles. Another user, Night Drive 88, described driving through rural Oregon at 2 in the morning. His headlights caught 3 children standing in the middle of the empty road. He slammed on his brakes. The children smiled at him through the windshield, that same too wide smile, and began walking toward his car. He didn't wait. He drove around them, his heart hammering, and when he checked his rearview mirror, they were gone. The most disturbing account came from Sarah M. Portland. She claimed her 6-year-old son had begun drawing pictures of 3 smiling children. "They visit me at night," her son had told her. "They stand at the window. They want me to let them in. They say we can play forever." Sarah M. Portland installed security cameras, and one night the cameras captured something that made her pack up and leave her house immediately. 3 figures standing in her backyard at 3 in the morning, facing her son's bedroom window. The quality was poor, but those smiles were unmistakable. Researchers and paranormal investigators tried to find rational explanations. Some suggested the black-eyed kids phenomenon, an urban legend that has circulated for decades. Others thought it was mass hysteria, a shared delusion amplified by the internet. But then, a folklorist named Martin Reeves uncovered something in his research that added a historical dimension to the terror.
He found references in Native American oral traditions, specifically from tribes in the Pacific Northwest, about the smiling ones. These were described as spirits or beings that took the form of children to lure people away from safety. They were said to feed on something the tribes couldn't quite name. Not flesh, not blood, but something else, something essential. The legends warned, never follow the smiling ones. Never let them into your home. Never look into their eyes for too long, or they'll see something in you that you didn't know was there. Something they can take. Winter Hiker 77 made a final post 3 months after his initial encounter. He wrote, "I went back. I don't know why. I just felt pulled to return. The clearing was empty, but carved into a tree trunk were 3 sets of initials and a date from 1952. I researched when I got home. 3 children went missing in that area in 1952. They were never found. I think I know where they went, or rather, what they became. Don't go looking for them. They're looking for you." His account has been inactive since that post. Some users have tried to contact him. All messages go unanswered. The photograph remains online, debated and analyzed. Skeptics claim it's Photoshop. Believers claim it's proof of something we're not meant to understand. But here's the thing that keeps this story alive. People are still reporting encounters. Even now, even recently. Hikers and campers share stories of 3 children with 2 wide smiles and eyes like empty voids. Are they ghosts? Are they something that never was human to begin with? Or are they something worse? Children who became lost in a place between worlds, transformed into something that hungers for the living. One thing is certain. If you're ever hiking alone, and you see 3 children standing silently in the distance, watching you, don't call out to them. Don't try to help them. And whatever you do, don't let them smile at you. Because once they smile, they know you've seen them. And once you've seen them, they'll never stop seeing you. These 3 stories share a common thread. Children existing at the intersection of our reality and something else. Something we can't explain. Something that defies logic, science, and comfort. Are these stories true? I'll leave that for you to decide. But before you turn off this video, before you turn the lights back on, ask yourself, what if the children in these stories aren't special? What if any child can serve as a bridge to the unexplainable? What if, right now, a child somewhere is seeing something that adults can't? Something watching from just beyond our perception. Sleep well tonight, and if you have children, maybe check on them, just to be sure they're alone in their rooms, because sometimes they're not.